The holographic display flickered with an unsettling emptiness, a constellation of human-controlled star systems now reduced to silent, dark points. Admiral Jackson Reed leaned forward, his weathered hands pressed against the transparent projection surface, fingers splayed as if he could somehow reach through the light and touch the vanished colonies. 72 hours of absolute silence. The communication blackout was unprecedented in human history. For over 3 centuries, humanity had been the most connected species in the known galaxy, a constant stream of data, diplomatic exchanges, trade communications, and cultural transmissions flowing from hundreds of colonial systems. Now, nothing. Not even static. Confirm the last known coordinates, Reed barked to his communications officer, Lieutenant Michael Rodriguez. The young officer's fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling up the most recent transmission logs. Sir, the last confirmed communication came from the New Phoenix colony in the Epsilon Crucis sector, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with barely contained anxiety. It was a standard maintenance report from Governor Elizabeth Nakamura. Timestamp shows complete cutoff at 2:37 Galactic Standard Time. Reed's steel-gray eyes narrowed. He had been in military service for over 4 decades, had seen humanity expand across the galaxy with an unparalleled combination of diplomatic finesse and strategic brilliance. Something was fundamentally wrong. Across the command center, representatives from dozens of alien species watched with growing unease. The Zarn diplomatic delegation, crystalline beings whose translucent bodies refracted the soft blue lighting of the command center, moved with an unusual agitation. Their lead ambassador, Seltok, approached Reed with a fluid, almost liquid motion. Admiral. Zeltok's voice emerged as a series of melodic clicks and harmonic undertones, simultaneously translated by the universal communication systems. Humanity has never been silent. Your species is known for its, how do humans say, oversharing. A ghost of a smile crossed Reed's lips. Even in this moment of crisis, the aliens' attempt at human colloquial language was almost amusing. But the humor died quickly. The silence was too absolute, too complete to be anything resembling a normal communication breakdown. Lieutenant Rodriguez's console suddenly erupted in a cascade of warning signals. Sir, detecting multiple anomalous energy signatures near the last known human colonial zones, but they're inconsistent, almost like quantum interference patterns. Reed's hand moved instinctively to the communication panel. Open channels to all known human frequencies. Priority alpha clearance. Silence. The Zarn ambassador's crystalline form began to vibrate, a sign of extreme emotional distress for their species. What could silence an entire human civilization? Zeltok's translated voice carried a mixture of fear and genuine confusion. Humanity had been more than just another species in the galactic community. They were diplomats, traders, explorers, mediators. When conflicts arose between other species, human negotiators were often called upon to find solutions. When technological challenges seemed insurmountable, human engineers found innovative approaches. When cultural misunderstandings threatened interstellar relations, human cultural specialists bridged the gaps. And now, nothing. Lieutenant, pull up the colonial defense protocols, Reed commanded. Every human colony was required to have multiple layers of emergency communication systems. Satellite relays, quantum entanglement communicators, subspace backup transmitters, redundancies upon redundancies. All silent. The holographic display began to populate with data streams, each one a negative response, each channel showing the same disturbing message. No signal. Reed's mind raced through possibilities. Massive solar flare, simultaneous system-wide cyber attack, quantum dimensional shift. Each theory seemed more implausible than the last. Sir, Rodriguez's voice broke through Reed's thoughts. We're detecting minimal energy signatures from the colonial zones. Not zero, but reduced. Like something is dampening or absorbing the electromagnetic emissions. The Zarn ambassador moved closer, its crystalline body casting prismatic reflections across the command center. "Admiral Reed, what do you propose?" Reed's response was immediate and decisive. "Preparation. We launch reconnaissance missions. Silent approach. No active scanning. Minimal energy emissions. We need to understand what happened to our colonies." As the command center erupted into controlled chaos of mission preparations, one thing became abundantly clear. The universe was about to discover that humanity's silence was far from a sign of weakness. It was a promise of something far more significant. Dr. Emily Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, holographic displays dancing around her workspace like luminescent butterflies. The recovered data fragments from abandoned human colonies told a story far more complex than anyone could have imagined. Her research facility, nestled deep within the Galactic Archaeological Institute, hummed with an electric tension. Teams from a dozen different species worked tirelessly, each fragment of human data a potential key to understanding the mysterious disappearance. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, zooming into a partially recovered communication block. The encryption was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Layers upon layers of quantum adaptive coding that seemed to shift and change even as she analyzed them. Professor Ahmed Khalid, her senior colleague from the Centauri Research Collective, leaned over her shoulder. His multi-jointed appendages carefully manipulated a secondary interface. "The level of preparation is unprecedented," he observed, his translator rendering his native clicks and whistles into precise human language. The data revealed a systematic, almost obsessive pattern of activity across human colonies. Underground complexes had been constructed with a speed and precision that defied conventional engineering. Entire populations had been relocated with surgical accuracy. Entire planetary populations moved as if they were pieces on a galactic chessboard. Emily pulled up a series of geological surveys. What initially appeared to be standard mining operations revealed something far more intricate. Massive underground structures were being built, not for resource extraction, but for something else entirely. Shielding technologies that could block every known form of scanning, communication, and energy detection. "Look at this network pattern." She highlighted a series of interconnected data points. "These aren't just defense installations. They're creating a distributed network of some kind." Professor Khalid's sensory tendrils rippled with excitement. "Distributed how? For what purpose?" A recovered communication fragment provided a tantalizing clue. Partially encrypted, it was from Dr. Marcus Williams, a senior colonial administrator on New Providence Colony. Phase 3 preparation complete. Quantum resonance shields at 92% efficiency. Population redistribution 78% complete. Estimated convergence 300 standard galactic time. Threat mitigation protocols active. The message raised more questions than it answered. In another recovered file, a personal log from Colonel Sarah Freeman, Chief of Colonial Defense, painted an even more mysterious picture. "We've known about the approach for generations. Our entire civilization has been a preparation, not just militarily, but fundamentally. Every colony, every individual. We're building something beyond a defense. We're creating a response." Emily zoomed out, looking at the broader pattern. The human colonies weren't just preparing. They were transforming. Entire planetary infrastructures had been slowly, meticulously redesigned. Agricultural systems modified. Communication networks restructured. Power grids transformed into something that looked more like a living, adaptive organism than a traditional energy distribution system. They knew something was coming. Professor Khalid said softly, "Something big enough to require this level of preparation." A holographic timeline began to take shape. For at least 2 decades, human colonies had been slowly, methodically changing. Population movements that seemed random now appeared calculated. Technology developments that had seemed eccentric now looked like carefully planned steps. "This isn't just preparation," Emily whispered. "This is a species-wide metamorphosis." The most disturbing element was the completeness of the transformation. No other species had ever undertaken such a comprehensive, civilization-wide modification. It wasn't just about building defenses or preparing for a threat. Humanity was becoming something else entirely. Another recovered fragment, this time from a personal communication between two colonial researchers, Dr. Elizabeth Chen and Dr. Robert Palmer, added another layer of intrigue. The quantum adaptive protocols are working better than we predicted. If the projections are correct, we're not just defending. We're creating a response mechanism that can operate beyond traditional dimensional constraints. Professor Khalid's translator struggled with the last part, the language dancing between scientific terminology and something that seemed to defy conventional understanding. As the day progressed, more fragments were decoded. Each one told a piece of a larger, more complex story. Humanity wasn't just preparing for a threat. They were transforming themselves into something that could fundamentally challenge whatever was coming. The universe had never seen anything like this before, and they were about to find out why. The first complete visual record of the Void Devourers came from an unexpected source. A damaged probe recovered from the outer reaches of the Andromeda cluster. Colonel Marcus Thompson stared at the holographic reconstruction, his breath catching in his throat. What human scientists had theoretically modeled for decades now existed in horrifying clarity. The entity defied conventional understanding of life. Not quite energy, not quite matter. The Void Devourers moved through reality like a cancer moves through biological systems. They consumed not just physical matter, but the very quantum foundations of existence. Dr. Rebecca Lawrence, the lead cynobiological researcher, manipulated the holographic display. Each movement revealed another layer of the horrifying entity's nature. They don't just destroy worlds, she explained to the assembled Galactic Council. They consume the fundamental potential of those worlds. The recovered probe's data told a chilling story. 17 advanced civilizations had been completely erased from existence over the past 3,000 years. Not destroyed, erased, as if they had never existed in the first place. Look here, Lawrence pointed to a specific sequence of quantum readings. Traditional scanning methods would never detect them. They operate on dimensional frequencies that most species can't even perceive. The Zarn diplomatic envoy's crystalline form vibrated with visible distress. Ambassador Exeltok's translated voice carried a tone of absolute dread. How long have humans known about this threat? Thompson's response was measured. Longer than you can imagine. Archaeological records began to paint a disturbing picture. Humanity had been tracking the Void Devourers for generations, perhaps even centuries. Every seemingly random technological advancement, every unusual colonial strategy, now looked like a calculated response to this existential threat. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a quantum historian, presented her findings. We found evidence in human archives suggesting they first detected these entities during the early interstellar exploration period. But instead of panic, they chose preparation. The probe's final transmission sequence was a nightmare of scientific data. The Void Devourers didn't just consume physical matter. They consumed potential, the very fabric of possible futures. Entire planetary ecosystems would be reduced to quantum null space with no trace of their previous existence. They're like a living computational algorithm, Lawrence explained, constantly seeking to eliminate complexity, reducing everything to the most basic quantum state. A holographic reconstruction showed how the entities moved. They didn't attack in any traditional sense. They infiltrated, slowly, methodically, consuming potential from within, reducing entire civilizations to quantum dust before anyone could even recognize the threat. The Galactic Council chamber fell into a horrified silence. Thompson pulled up a classified human research document. Fragments of a report written by Dr. Samuel Henderson, a quantum defense strategist, dated nearly 50 years earlier. The Void Devourers represent more than a traditional threat. They are a fundamental challenge to the concept of existence itself. Our research suggests they are not simply a species or a technology, but a fundamental force that seeks to reduce all complex systems to their most basic quantum potential. Conventional defense is impossible. We must become something else entirely. The implications were staggering. Humanity had known about this threat for generations and had been systematically preparing a response that went beyond traditional military or technological solutions. Ambassador Seltalk's crystalline form now trembled visibly. How do you fight something that consumes potential itself? Thompson's response was simple and chilling. You don't fight it. You become something it cannot consume. The recovered data suggested that humanity's entire civilization had been slowly, methodically transforming. Not just technologically, but fundamentally. Every colony, every technological advancement, every population movement was part of a species-wide adaptation. They're creating a defense mechanism, Dr. Rodriguez concluded, that exists beyond traditional dimensional constraints. The first complete visualization of a Void Devourer's attack cycle made the Galactic Council members recoil. It wasn't destruction in any conventional sense. It was reduction. Potential being systematically eliminated, complex systems broken down to their most basic quantum states. And humanity had been preparing for this moment for generations. The universe was about to discover that human silence was not a weakness. It was a promise of something far more terrifying. The transmission erupted across galactic communication networks like a quantum thunderbolt. Supercomputers from a dozen different species worked in frantic concert, their processing units straining to decrypt the densely encoded message. Dr. Olivia Bennett's voice crackled through the initial decryption, each word carefully chosen, laden with implications that would reshape everything the universe understood about humanity. The threat was never random. It was calculated, systematic, and we have been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. In the Galactic Research Hub, located on the neutral asteroid station Crossroads, a team of the most brilliant minds from across known space worked to unravel the transmission. Dr. Michael Chen, a human quantum physicist who had remained behind during the colonial blackout, watched with a mixture of pride and tension. The message was a comprehensive data package that revealed the true depth of human preparation. It wasn't just a defensive strategy. It was a complete reinvention of what it meant to be a civilization. Look at the genetic modification protocols, Dr. Samantha Rodriguez whispered, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Lines of DNA shifted and transformed before their eyes, revealing modifications so intricate they seemed to defy the basic understanding of genetic engineering. Each human colony had been transformed into a potential weapon, not through traditional military means, but through a fundamental restructuring of biological and technological potential. Population centers had been carefully distributed, their genetic makeup subtly altered to create a species-wide adaptive response mechanism. The transmission continued, Dr. Bennett's voice a calm counterpoint to the revolutionary information. Our preparation has been our greatest weapon. We are not just defending. We are becoming something that cannot be consumed. Dr. Chen pulled up a series of colonial development charts. What had seemed like random infrastructure projects now revealed themselves as a carefully orchestrated plan. Underground complexes that extended kilometers beneath planetary surfaces. Communication networks that could operate beyond traditional electromagnetic spectrums. Energy systems that could redistribute and adapt faster than any known technological system. It's a distributed neural network, Professor Ahmed Khalid from the Centauri Research Collective observed, his multi-jointed appendages manipulating the holographic data, but not just technological, biological, cultural, quantum. The most shocking revelation was the scale of the preparation. For generations, humanity had been subtly changing. Every technological advancement, every colonial expansion, every seemingly random population movement was part of a larger strategy. Another fragment of the transmission revealed the core of their approach. We cannot fight the Void Devourers with traditional methods. We must become something they cannot comprehend, a living defense mechanism that exists beyond their ability to consume. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something even more extraordinary. The genetic modifications weren't just defensive. They were adaptive. Each human carried within their DNA a complex quantum algorithm that could respond to dimensional threats in real time. They turned their entire species into a responsive, living defense system, she muttered, her hands trembling slightly as she processed the implications. The communication networks that had gone silent were not destroyed. They had been transformed. Each colony was now a node in a massive living system that could potentially operate across multiple dimensional frequencies. Dr. Chen's analysis revealed the true brilliance of the human strategy. They hadn't just prepared for the Void Devourers. They had fundamentally redesigned their entire civilization to become something the entities could not comprehend or consume. We are witnessing the most comprehensive species-level transformation in galactic history, Professor Khalid noted, his translator rendering his complex native language into precise human terminology. The final portion of the transmission was both a warning and a promise. We are not hiding. We are becoming. Prepare yourselves. As the last fragments of the transmission were decoded, the assembled researchers from across the galaxy understood one fundamental truth. Humanity's silence was not an absence. It was the calm before a fundamental reimagining of what it means to exist. The universe held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would become. The first human war machines emerged from the quantum shadows like living nightmares. They were not ships in any traditional sense. They were weapons that defied every known principle of warfare, technological adaptation, and biological engineering. General Nathan Reynolds watched from the command center of the U.S. Defiance, his eyes reflecting the holographic displays that showed the initial engagement points. These were not mere machines of war. They were living, adaptive systems that blurred the line between technology, biology, and something entirely new. Tactical overview, he commanded, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez brought up the first wave of deployment. Each combat unit was a marvel of quantum engineering, part machine, part biological organism, part dimensional adaptive system. They moved through space with a fluidity that seemed to ignore traditional laws of physics. The Void Devourers had consumed countless civilizations. They moved through dimensional spaces, reducing complex systems to their most basic quantum potentials. They were predators of existence itself, consuming not just matter, but the very possibility of future existence. They had never encountered humanity. The first engagement began in the Epsilon Crucis sector. What appeared to be a standard combat deployment was anything but standard. The human war machines didn't just attack, they transformed. Outer shells shifted, molecular structures realigned, entire systems reconfigured in milliseconds. Dimensional resonance at 78%, Lieutenant Martinez reported. Adaptive protocols engaging. Each human combat unit was a living weapon. Their genetic structures contained complex quantum algorithms that could predict and counter the Void Devourers' dimensional invasion techniques. Where other species saw chaos, humans saw a complex problem to be solved. A recovered communication from Dr. Rebecca Lawrence, one of the lead researchers behind the combat systems, explained their approach. We are not creating weapons. We are creating a living response mechanism. Each unit is a complete ecosystem of defensive potential. The first wave of attacks demonstrated the true depth of human preparation. The war machines didn't just fight. They adapted. When the Void Devourers attempted to consume their potential, the human systems would shift, creating new dimensional pathways that the entities couldn't comprehend. General Reynolds watched as entire combat groups moved like living organisms. They weren't just fighting. They were learning, evolving, in real time. Quantum adaptive response at 92%, Lieutenant Martinez called out. They can't establish a consumption pattern. The Galactic Observation Council watched in stunned silence. Transmission feeds from multiple observation points showed something unprecedented. The human combat systems were not just defending. They were actively hunting the Void Devourers across multiple dimensional frequencies. A transmission from the front lines, encrypted but partially decoded, revealed the true nature of the engagement. Target identified. Dimensional pathways mapping. Adaptive response. Active. We are not the prey. Dr. Michael Chen, monitoring from the research station, explained to the assembled alien researchers, each combat unit is a complete quantum computational system. They're not just fighting. They're solving a complex, multidimensional problem in real time. The human approach was fundamentally different from any known warfare strategy. Traditional military doctrine assumed a separation between weapon, operator, and environment. The human systems treated the entire engagement as a single adaptive organism. Where the void devourers expected to find weakness, they found something entirely unexpected: a living, thinking, evolving defense mechanism. Dimensional breach stabilized, Lieutenant Martinez reported. First wave of counterattack. Successful. General Reynolds allowed himself the slightest smile. Humanity had not just prepared for this moment. They had been waiting for it. The universe was about to learn that silence was not surrender. It was a promise of something far more terrifying. Dr. Rebecca Lawrence stood before the Galactic Research Council, her presentation hologram flickering with quantum adaptive displays that seemed to move and breathe with a life of their own. The assembled scientists from 100 different species leaned forward, their collective breath held in anticipation. What we've discovered, she began, is that humanity's technological development was never about creating tools. It was about becoming something entirely new. The holographic display erupted into a complex web of interconnected systems. What initially appeared to be random technological developments now revealed themselves as a carefully orchestrated evolutionary strategy. Every scientific breakthrough, every seemingly unrelated research project, was a piece of a much larger puzzle. Dr. Michael Chen manipulated the display, showing how human genetic research had been subtly evolving for generations. Look here, he pointed. Each modification was not just a medical or biological advancement. It was a quantum adaptive protocol. The genetic modifications went far beyond traditional genetic engineering. Human DNA had been transformed into a living computational system. Each cell became a potential processing unit, capable of adapting to dimensional threats in real time. It wasn't just defense, it was a complete reimagining of biological potential. Professor Ahmed Khalid from the Centauri Research Collective examined the data with his multi-jointed appendages. They turned their entire biological system into a quantum computational network, he observed, his translator rendering his complex native language into precise human terminology. A recovered research log from Dr. Elizabeth Rodriguez revealed the depth of their approach. We are not modifying ourselves to survive. We are redesigning the fundamental concept of survival. Each human becomes a living algorithm of potential. The technological revelations were staggering. Humanity had developed systems that could operate across multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. Communication networks that weren't just technological infrastructure, but living, adaptive organisms. Energy systems that could redistribute and transform faster than any known technological concept. Dr. Lawrence pulled up a series of quantum resonance patterns. Traditional scanning methods would never detect these modifications, she explained. They operate on frequencies that most species can't even perceive. The most shocking discovery was the distribution of these technologies. It wasn't centralized. Every human colony, every individual, carried within them a piece of a massive, distributed defensive system. They had turned their entire civilization into a living, responsive mechanism. A fragment of a research document from Dr. Samuel Henderson highlighted their philosophical approach. We cannot fight the dimensional threat with traditional methods. We must become a solution that exists beyond conventional understanding. Our technology is not a tool. It is an extension of our potential. The quantum adaptive protocols went beyond simple technological modification. They had developed systems that could predict and counter threats before they even manifested. Each human became a potential computational node in a massive living network that could respond to dimensional challenges in real time. Dr. Chen demonstrated how their energy systems worked. Traditional power grids were replaced by adaptive quantum networks that could redistribute energy instantaneously. A threat in one system would cause immediate reconfiguration across entire planetary networks. It's not just defense, Dr. Lawrence explained to the stunned council. It's a complete reimagining of what technology can be. We're not just creating tools. We're creating living systems that can think, adapt, and respond. The genetic modifications were equally revolutionary. Human DNA had been transformed into a complex quantum algorithm. Each cell became a potential processing unit, capable of adapting to dimensional threats in real time. It wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something entirely new. Professor Khalid's analysis revealed the true brilliance of their approach. They'd turned their entire species into a responsive, living defense mechanism. He noted, his sensory tendrils rippling with excitement and fear. The final portion of the recovered research documents was both a warning and a promise. We are not developing technology. We are evolving. Prepare to witness something beyond your understanding. As the presentation concluded, the Galactic Research Council understood one fundamental truth. Humanity's technological development was never about creating external tools. It was about becoming something the universe had never seen before. The silence was ending. Captain William Foster stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, his consciousness simultaneously existing across multiple dimensional layers. The battle transcended physical space, occurring in realities that most species couldn't even perceive. The quantum adaptive hull of the ship moved like a living organism, shifting and changing with each millisecond of the engagement. Where traditional warfare saw clear lines between weapon, defender, and environment, this conflict was a complex, multi-dimensional chess match that redefined the very concept of combat. Dimensional stability at 76%, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez called out, her voice steady despite the reality-bending conflicts surrounding them. Quantum resonance patterns adapting. The Void Devourers had consumed countless civilizations. They moved through dimensional spaces, reducing complex systems to their most basic quantum potentials. They were predators of existence itself, consuming not just matter, but the very possibility of future existence. They had never encountered humanity. The battle began across multiple star systems simultaneously. Human combat units weren't just fighting. They were solving a complex, multidimensional problem in real time. Each unit was a complete quantum computational system, a living weapon that could predict, adapt, and counter the Void Devourers' dimensional invasion techniques. A recovered communication from the front lines revealed the nature of the engagement. Dimensional pathways identified. Adaptive response. Maximum efficiency. We are not the prey. We are the solution. Dr. Rebecca Lawrence, monitoring from the research station, explained to the assembled alien observers, "This isn't a traditional battle. It's a comprehensive dimensional problem-solving exercise." The human systems moved with an almost organic intelligence. When the Void Devourers attempted to consume their potential, the human defensive mechanisms would shift, creating new dimensional pathways that the entities couldn't comprehend. It was warfare beyond technology. It was evolutionary adaptation in real time. Captain Foster's consciousness expanded. He was simultaneously the ship, the combat units, and something more. The quantum adaptive systems had transformed human perception, allowing for a level of strategic thinking that defied conventional understanding. Dimensional breach detected, Lieutenant Martinez reported. Adaptive response protocol. Active. The Galactic Observation Council watched in stunned silence. Transmission feeds from multiple observation points showed something unprecedented. The human combat systems were not just defending. They were actively hunting the Void Devourers across multiple dimensional frequencies. Dr. Michael Chen's analysis revealed the true depth of human preparation. Each engagement point is a living computational system, he explained. They're not just fighting. They're learning, evolving. In real time, the battle moved beyond traditional concepts of attack and defense. Human systems could predict the Void Devourers' movement patterns before the entities themselves were aware of their own intentions. They were solving a complex, multi-dimensional problem faster than the problem could even fully form. A transmission from the frontline research team captured the essence of the conflict. Target dimensional frequencies identified. Computational adaptive response. Optimal. We are rewriting the rules of existence. Professor Ahmed Khalid, watching from the research station, summarized the unprecedented nature of the conflict. They've turned the entire engagement into a living, thinking, evolving defense mechanism. The quantum adaptive hull of the U.S. Defiance became a weapon beyond comprehension. It could shift between states of matter, energy, and something entirely new. Traditional concepts of shield and weapon blurred into a single adaptive system. Captain Foster's voice emerged, not just through communication systems, but through quantum resonance patterns that traversed multiple dimensional layers. We are not here to fight. A pause. We are here to solve. The Void Devourers, for the first time in their existence, encountered a prey that could fight back on their own terms. Not with brute force, but with a level of adaptive intelligence that rewrote the fundamental rules of dimensional engagement. As the final stages of the conflict approached, it became clear that this was more than a battle. It was a fundamental reimagining of what it means to exist. Humanity had not just prepared for this moment. They had been waiting to show the universe something entirely new. The aftermath of the conflict defied every known principle of galactic diplomacy and understanding. Admiral Jackson Reed stood before the Galactic Reconstruction Council, his presence both a promise and a warning. "We are not here to lead," he began, his voice carrying the weight of a species that had just fundamentally changed the nature of existence. "We are here to protect." The chamber, filled with representatives from hundreds of different species, remained utterly silent. The holographic displays showed the extent of humanity's intervention. Where the Void Devourers had once consumed entire dimensional potentials, now there were protective quantum networks. Adaptive systems that could predict and prevent dimensional threats before they could even fully form. Dr. Emily Rodriguez presented the comprehensive analysis. The human intervention wasn't just a military victory. It was a complete reimagining of galactic defense and potential. "We've developed a cooperative defense network," she explained, "that doesn't require centralized control. Each species becomes a potential node in a living, adaptive protection system." The transformation was profound. Humanity had not conquered. They had solved a fundamental problem that had threatened existence itself. Their approach was neither imperial nor submissive. It was collaborative in a way no civilization had ever conceived. A recovered communication from the strategic planning team revealed their philosophical approach. "We do not seek to replace. We seek to enable. Protection is not about control. It is about potential." Professor Ahmed Khalid from the Centauri Research Collective analyzed the new network. "It's not a traditional alliance," he noted. "It's a living, adaptive system where each species contributes its unique potential to a collective defensive mechanism." The human-developed quantum network was revolutionary. It could predict dimensional threats across multiple frequencies, allowing for preemptive protection. But more importantly, it did so without removing the individual agency of any participating species. Dr. Michael Chen demonstrated how the system worked. Each civilization could contribute its unique characteristics to the network. Some would provide computational potential, others would offer biological insights, some would contribute technological innovations. The network would adapt, learn, and protect. "We are not creating an empire," Chen explained. "We are creating a collaborative ecosystem of protection." The most shocking element was the network's fundamental design. It was completely decentralized. No single species, not even humanity, could control it. Each participant was both a contributor and a beneficiary. Ambassador Sarah Martinez addressed the concerns of smaller galactic civilizations. "Your uniqueness is your strength. Our network doesn't homogenize, it amplifies." The recovered strategic documents revealed the depth of their approach. True protection comes from understanding, not from control. We are not saviors. We are partners. The Galactic Reconstruction Council began to understand the true nature of humanity's intervention. They had not just defeated the Void Devourers. They had created a fundamental shift in how civilizations could interact and protect themselves. Dr. Rebecca Lawrence's final report summarized their approach. We have transformed galactic defense from a reactive system to a predictive, collaborative ecosystem. Each species becomes a potential solution, not just a potential target. The quantum network they had developed could predict dimensional threats across multiple frequencies, but it did so by understanding, not by controlling. Each civilization maintained its unique identity while contributing to a collective protective mechanism. Admiral Reed's closing statement to the Council became a defining moment. We are not here to lead. We are not here to control. We are here to enable, to protect, to ensure that no civilization ever faces the threat of complete dimensional elimination again. The silence that followed was not one of fear or submission. It was a silence of understanding. Humanity had shown the universe something profound. Protection was not about dominance. It was about potential, about enabling each unique civilization to thrive, to grow, to contribute. They had rewritten the fundamental rules of galactic interaction, and they were just getting started.